Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast. It is October 21st already.
Is that right?
10 days till Halloween. The World Series is set. The matchup is set. We'll talk about that. And your Chicago Cubs. Luke Stuckmeyer, Ryan Herrera, Cody Delmendo. Law on the draw, running the ones and twos. Nate Poppins supervising.
Yes. I'm excited.
Looking over Law on the draw's shoulder.
I'm excited.
I haven't even introduced myself to this guy yet. I feel bad.
Yeah, that's Nate.
Nate, Cody, Beer Chugs.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I'm your noted Cubs ranter who probably gets way too emotional.
Oh,
Sorry.
but Nate can be a Cubs ranter too, believe me.
Said probably?
Probably, yeah.
I was surprised because I thought he had if his seat across the way in the studio on the other side was if that spot I thought was his. There was like a Sports Illustrated White Sox cover on his desk. So I'm a little confused if he's a Cubs fan.
No, he's a Cubs fan.
One of my first shifts at the old network was for the early perfect game. So
there you go.
Okay.
it's a great memory.
Nice.
We did the now defunct Cubs talk podcast together.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, look at you guys.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, we had desks near each other at the former employer with the old place, the old shuttered place,
CSNBC, Chicago.
Yeah, that place. Anyways,
See ya.
So we're gonna talk about the World Series a little bit. It's a Monday mailbag. So we've got some questions that you put in Discord. Yeah, I was in Discord this morning because that's what we do. When you sign up to be a diehard, you get to be in that Discord. And, that's a good way to start off your Monday. Maybe get your Monday and your week started with a new diehard membership,
Holidays are right around the corner, brother.
It's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year round.
Always.
Yeah.
Ryan's newsletter in your inbox every Monday, right?
Oh, yeah. And more content to come.
Ryan's back from Mexico. How was Mexico?
Oh, it's super sunny and nice and
sunny.
The mojitos were good. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know all about those. You've had plenty in the
yeah.
last 3 years.
Mai Tais, mojitos.
I'm really looking forward to my 2 weeks of Mexico.
You're going to be there for 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
You're real 2 weeks in Mexico?
Yeah.
Like legitimate.
How many
Quotes
shows
around
will
my
Cody?
trip to Mexico.
How many shows will Cody be in the live YouTube chat? That's the question. He's not gonna be able to hold himself back one day.
Probably the first day.
Yeah.
First day I'll come in, see how people are reacting to me being gone. And then if there's something that I find funny or a little ridiculous, I'll probably just be like, "You want to say that to my face or something like that?" Yeah. But
say that to my face. I'm in Mexico. Shout out to everybody that's here in the live YouTube chat. By the way, 11:30 is our off-season time. That's when we're here. 11:30. We did the 120 thing during the season, but 11:30 is our off-season time daily.
It's like it's like a getaway day in Cincinnati.
I like that.
Yeah.
or Pittsburgh.
Or Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that Javi's best moment was an 11:30 start, I think.
Maybe.
That sounds
On
about
Pittsburgh.
right.
Oh, yeah, that was one of those early games.
It was a big game
Yeah.
for sure. I know that.
Yeah.
Godfather CHGO already here. Dear Tom Ricketts, look who is in the World Series. I heard crickets at Gallagher Way. Yeah, well, it is Magic Wand Monday as well, as I like to say. And why not take that Magic Wand Monday and paint Juan Soto looking at the historic scoreboard?
You know that photo?
That's not even a painting. It's a photo I took.
You know that photo you took when the Yankees came to town in September of Juan Soto looking out at
That's
the
what you're talking
outfield?
about.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
know.
I'm talking about. Pining to be a Cub.
I have seen that photo surface Facebook groups.
Ooh.
And you know how Facebook Cubs fans are.
Now, wait a minute. Are you telling me
No
people on the
credit?
internet are not giving me photo credit
They're
for that?
not. They're not. I've seen them. I've seen that photo in Facebook groups. But you know what's funny?
People stole my photo?
Wait,
Yes.
where is your photo?
It's in Slack. I
No,
put
it's
it
not.
in.
Not today.
What's funny? The funny part about it is that everyone thinks that it's Anthony Rizzo in that photo looking out, and it's Juan
boy.
Soto.
All right, hold on. Are you saying it's not in the Slack?
Goodness.
So, yeah,
People are
There's
stealing my content.
yes.
With no credit.
No
No
credit.
What are they
attribution.
can probably start doing lookalikes next?
Yeah.
Let's see. I've got that photo right here somewhere.
It's not the first time that I've seen the Facebook group steal our stuff, like our graphics and stuff. I actually take it as like a compliment because it's like, okay, they follow us and they're sharing it to their Facebook groups, whatever. It's cool. But I did find it funny that they shared that photo that Luke shared back in September when the Yankees were in town. It blew up pretty well too. But it's just the fact that everyone thought it was Anthony Rizzo when it was actually Juan Soto.
All right, I'm sending it again, Law. It also was the one where I had Rizzo hugging Hap. That one blew up.
Yeah.
It was back and forth. That day I was like,
you're a content machine.
I was a content machine that day.
The king of the content over here.
No one does content like Luke Stuckmeyer does content.
I have a question. So with these two teams, it's what the Godfather was talking about. These two teams in it. I just want to point out that this should be something that Tom Ricketts is looking at. Because the narrative last year was, well, the Diamondbacks, we were a game behind them, and look, they did it, and their payroll's not this. And they even mentioned it at spring training and at the winter meetings, right? Mm-hmm. They dropped it. Well, just go back and look at the last 3 years of the teams that have made the World Series. Yankees, Dodgers now, number 2 in payroll versus number 3 in payroll. The year before that, it had the Diamondbacks, but the Rangers were the largest increase in payroll at a 41% increase. They signed Seager for $325, Semien for $175. And then the year before that, it was the Astros and Phillies, number 3 in payroll against number 4 in payroll. Don't tell me money doesn't matter.
Well, it does. It doesn't. Like, you point at the Diamondbacks and, the teams can do that, right? Teams can go on a little run there that don't have big payrolls. Like, we see it once a year, right? Teams that don't have big payrolls just because they can't really carry big payrolls. They go on and have pretty special runs. The Tigers this year were one of them. Obviously, the Guardians aren't that big of a payroll. But the difference is that, like I said, like those teams can't necessarily afford to have year in, year out big payrolls. Cubs obviously can. That's the difference right there. And like, especially in this division itself, the Cubs are by far the largest market, by far have more resources than everyone else in the National League Central. They can absolutely afford to have the kind of payrolls that, not necessarily the Yankees or Dodgers, right? Like $300 million is a lot of money, a lot of resources.
No, they can.
They can, but we don't. I'm saying like we don't.
They can.
We
and
don't
should.
expect them to, because that's not how.
No, I don't expect it, but they should.
That's not how that ownership. But even if you say they should be closer to what the Phillies are at, right? Like that's still a lot of money. It's not the $300+ million like the Mets, Dodgers, and Yankees had, but it's still a lot of money higher over the luxury tax. And you're like, yeah, you can absolutely afford to put teams on the field that your payroll's hitting that number every year. So, and I think when you mentioned the Diamondbacks earlier, the other part of it is like Tom pointed to the Diamondbacks in spring training, Tom Ricketts, about like not necessarily like we want to be like the Diamondbacks, but it was like, oh, like that team, 84 wins,
how they
did
it.
To go to the World Series. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about with Michael Cerami last week of like just making the playoffs, just making the wild card. Like, I guess at this point it's a good thing for the Cubs, like coming out of the rebuild, but that shouldn't be like the ultimate goal of at the end of a regular season. Like, it shouldn't be good enough just to have made a wild card and playing in the wild card round. Like, you should be striving to be one of those top 2 teams getting a bye every week or every year, getting that bye series. So, yeah, I mean, teams can do that. Teams can have surprise runs without having big payrolls. But when you do have the kind of resources the Cubs have, like, that gives you a leg up in being able to do that year in, year out. And you see it with the Yankees and Dodgers, who are just in it every year. They're not winning every year, not winning the World Series every year, but they are in it, giving themselves a chance every year. And that's like where the Cubs should be striving to be at.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I will say, though, Yankees were kind of lucky that Emmanuel Clase just decided to, completely fall apart.
Well, you know why? Because they pitched him like he was who was the Cubs pitcher?
Raldy. Chapman.
No. Who was the Cubs pitcher that they they threw him every day and it was like
Cishek.
I mean, the guy's arm was ready to fall.
And I tweeted after
all of their relievers.
I tweeted after one of their games over the weekend that I remembered when the Cubs went to Cleveland this year, Clase pitched 4 straight days. Yeah. And 2 of those days were the first 2 games of the Cubs series.
Burned him out.
And so it's like, but then I also looked at his like just career numbers the last handful of years, and he's pitched 70 innings every single year. So it's kind of,
but not all the way till the ALCS.
Sure, yeah. You know, like I am curious about like what happened to him, because he was getting lit up and he had an ERA under 1 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of their fans thought he should have been considered for Cy Young. You know,
I heard he was posting on like Instagram and stuff, like pictures of his awards and stuff when people were trolling him. Probably not a great idea.
You'll see
you got lit up.
Yeah. So not to take away any credit the Yankees have, but like the Guardians had plenty of chances to extend that series at the very least, and so the fact that they were able to execute, you know, Juan Soto, that home run that he hit the other night in extra innings, like
it looks so good in a Cubs uniform.
Like I'm not a big fan of the guy on MLB Network who called it, because he's a Cardinals fan, but he called it. I forgot his name, and that's fine. But like, he was right in the fact that like it was one of the greatest at bats that he had seen, because he just battled and fouled off pitches, and then he hit a homer. And he hit a fastball that was basically outside the zone and up. And not many players can do that with the heat that players are using in this day and age. So he just continues to increase that contract that he's going to get. After he hit that homer, I was like, okay, $600 million, no less.
Yes.
You know? I'll admit that I watched John Boy's breakdown of it, and there was a part of it that I really liked where it was the same pitch. It was a changeup, right? That he was laying off or whatever, and he went back to like a previous batter and was like, "Here's like 3 frames, like the bat was in the same spot, like behind their head or whatever, and 3 frames later, like as in like 3." Like whatever on video, Soto was able to get his bat to spoil a pitch, and it was like the other guy just stood there and had just struck out on that pitch. But Soto's so good and next level that he was able to get his batter on and just spoil that pitch, and then keep waiting. And he was on it.
The other guy stood there like somebody from the Score in a championship game.
Ooh.
Oh, was that a low blow? Sorry, back-to-back champs. I don't know. I didn't play. I just watched.
Well, credit to you for not playing, because that's why they won.
Yeah. That's right. And humble of me.
Humble of you.
To put my ego aside and say others can play.
Yes.
Is it more likely that Soto, let's say they either win the World Series or lose the World Series, does either way impact his likeliness of staying in New York, or
no?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually. Like
is the best case scenario that the Yankees get smoked in 4 straight games and he goes 0-4, and in the games in New York they boo him because he's so bad? I don't think that's going to happen, because they're not that stupid. But
or does it?
Like, is there a scenario, or does he win and then he's like, I don't need to win here anymore?
Yeah, like he already got there. He won the championship. Like this.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. But I don't know how. I don't know how Juan Soto feels about it, you know.
All I know is that if he cares about legacy, if he cares about career numbers, he's got the short porch there and Aaron Judge behind him.
Yeah.
If he wants to be considered one of the all-time greats by the end of his career, which he already kind of is, but he's 26. He hasn't even reached what is supposed to be your quote-unquote peak yet. With the short porch and Aaron Judge behind you, to me, like, yes, money talks, but if you just look at everything that that's already there, why would you want to leave that?
Are you telling Juan Soto to stay in New York?
No, I'm just being.
I'm saying
the fact of the matter. I'm sitting in reality.
Look at this photo. Do you see the way he's pining at that scoreboard? Do you see the passion in his eyes?
Yeah,
you can't because it's the back of his head.
Rizzo.
But can you see the way? Look at the way he folds his left arm behind his back, as if to say, "This is home. This will be my Coliseum."
Luke, I'm not doing this winter. There's no shot. Why should I even like? Why? Why should I even?
I'll tell you why.
Because it's fun to talk about.
No, it's not. It really isn't fun to talk about anymore.
Yeah, it is.
We'll talk about it more in a second. But first, say Prost to bigger and better savings on your next vehicle, because Cartoberfest is going on right now at Ray Chevrolet. Head into the shop today to shop their huge selection of new Chevy models at new low prices. Right now, take $3,000 up to $12,000 off MSRP on most new Chevy models, or cruise through fall your own way and shop 125 vehicles priced under $20,000 right now. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. Visit our partner this October at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake or at raychevrolet.com. Route 12, also known as Rand Road. And if you've ever heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you also have heard of Ray's Price Promise. That's their guarantee to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible prices we're talking about on the podcast are the same prices you can expect to see and hear when you shop Ray Chevy in-store or online. Shop Cartoberfest all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
Luke, I got to tell you about our friends at Game Time, and specifically Game Time Picks. Game Time has that new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I'm looking right now at Game Time, the Bulls home opener on Saturday against the Thunder. Maybe that'd be a fun one, right? You go on Game Time. I'm seeing $73, as low as $73 to go to that game. Also, you click the Game Time Picks feature, filters out from the hundreds of seats that are there, brings it down, filters out the fluff, and I'm seeing even better deals right now, $74. So that's what I really like about Game Time, the Game Time Picks feature. Also, things that I like is the all-in pricing. Luke, I know you love this. You toggle that feature, and it shows you your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. It gives you your seat view, so you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. So if you're not familiar with the venue, you get a look at where you're sitting and what your view is going to be. Game Time offers the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And Game Time's ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem that code CHGO for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Nice.
De La Cruz says, no chance Soto lands here. Ivo says, 0 chance Soto's a Cub in 2025. So you're saying there's a chance? There's
no chance.
I believe they're saying there's no chance, yeah.
What they're saying is no chance. I understand it now.
Skeeter.
Skeeter, $2 super chat. Higher ratings, World Series Game 3 on Monday or Monday Night Football. By the way, I don't like if you're going to have 2 Monday night games, they got to be at different times.
Well, it's not.
And frankly,
it's not
I don't.
This week, it's.
I don't need 2 Monday night games.
It's fair.
I agree. I'd like there just being one game. That way, I can just watch one. However,
that's right.
You can be like me in some ways too, and just bring out 2 TVs and put in your living room.
Well, yeah, but
God,
not everybody.
Smart. You're good.
Not everybody has the vibe that you have going on.
Some of us are just real degenerates. Okay? I appreciate that.
I mean,
big of you to say.
Okay, so
you always got somebody else's dog running around your house.
You got to answer the question though.
What?
Which ratings are going to be higher?
Monday night.
Game 3?
The Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Now, if the
although
first
New York
two games,
and New York and LA,
if the first 2 games are good though, and I don't know the matchup for Monday Night Football next, like I haven't looked ahead on the NFL schedule, like so it just kind of depends. Like if it's a matchup like Jets Steelers was last night, then perhaps maybe more people will watch the baseball game. But I do think it depends on how game 1 and 2 go.
I know that you will be rooting for Mark Leiter Jr.
MLJ
in the World Series. My question is
Giants Steelers
and Marcus Stroman, right?
Cody,
the Stro Show. I forgot
Cody,
about
you're
him.
basically right. It's Giants Steelers.
Oh yeah,
Giants Steelers versus Yankees Dodgers.
I'm actually gonna
on the 28th.
It's still gonna be the NFL game,
probably
for gambling reasons and fantasy
football. Football's
but it'll be closer than most times. Don't you think?
Probably.
It'll be the NFL.
I think so.
It'd be nice if baseball actually went over.
I mean, Yankees Dodgers, they were begging for this.
Yeah. No, I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than Yankees Dodgers, but football is still football.
They were running a promo during the game the other day for, basically postseason baseball, and it was just Ohtani and Judge. And it was like, do they realize that the Guardians are playing right now? Like it was almost like a World Series preview, and Cleveland wasn't even out of it yet. That's how far gone Major League Baseball was. They're like, let's move along. Let's get to this LA, New York thing. Okay, so will you root for Anthony Rizzo? I know, like, it hurt you. You were like, oh, I don't want to see Schwarber win another World Series with the Phillies. What about Rizzo getting back to his first World Series?
I mean, I guess in some ways it's different because, like, no matter what happens in this World Series, unless Anthony Rizzo just has, like, an insane, memorable moment that people talk about for years to come, I still think more people are always going to remember him for being a Cub because he's not the star on this team. It's Juan Soto and Aaron Judge. This is like he is in the back half of his career. He hasn't even really been that good the last couple of years because of injuries, you know. So in some ways, because of that, I'm rooting for the Yankees over the Dodgers here. I'd rather both teams lose personally, but yeah, that's the only reason that I will root for the Yankees is because I want to see Rizzo be happy.
You're forgetting people on the East Coast.
No, I know.
They're gonna be like, Rizzo, he play for the Cubs? Rizzo play for the Cubs? I don't think so.
I just like like I said when I walked into the office today, it's like if it was up to me, this would be a 4-game sweep, be over with because I don't care.
It is kind of interesting seeing Rizzo, and he's hitting really well in the playoffs this year. Like, he's hit pretty well, but like I think the most memorable thing he's been a part of was that error with the Mark Letter Jr. against whatever day that was, Saturday night or whatever, and like that would have been like that. Like that's the thing that like stands out. He's had a couple big hits as well. Like I said, he's hit really well.
But then he also started the rally right.
Yeah,
after
exactly.
That,
so, but it's like that would have been had he not done it, like that would have been the thing that's like sticking in people's minds about it. So like, it is nice to see Rizzo, especially as a guy that didn't want to leave Chicago, he wanted to be here, didn't feel like he got the offer he didn't get the offer he felt like he deserved. Got traded to the Yankees, has stuck with them the last 3 years, and has dealt with a lot as far as injuries go. And like there's a concussion last year, right? That ended his season.
Collision that he had.
Yeah. So dealt with a lot in New York, and now they're in the World Series, and obviously Juan Soto is Juan Soto, Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge, and Giancarlo Stanton figured out how to hit again. He's hitting home runs like crazy. Like those are the 3 guys that are carrying them right now offensively. But like Rizzo's in there too, contributing, and it's just nice to see for a guy who has dealt with a bunch of stuff the last few years to have some success there when they've needed him.
It's different because like Schwarber is looked at as like a core piece with Philadelphia, and so like my fear always was if he wins a World Series with Philly, being a core member of that team, like he'll be remembered more so for that in his career with Philly than the Cubs. He's had the prime of his career has been with the Phillies, no doubt, right? But I think you still will remember him more so for his World Series with the Cubs and how he came back off the ACL injury and all of that.
We will
for sure.
We will for sure.
But even around the league, I feel like that it would still be looked at as that. But with Rizzo, like Chef Kevin says in the chat, like Rizzo's a role player on this team with the Yankees now, which is crazy considering, like Ryan said, he's been hitting this postseason, and we know what he is when he's hitting, and that's still a really good hitter.
For tomorrow's show, this is also for the chat. Think about this. I'm going to give you 24 hours to think about this. Your ex-Cub factor in the World Series. Who will end up being the biggest star or be a part of the biggest moment in this World Series? Which former Cub will have the biggest role in this World Series?
How many former Cubs are there?
There's Stroman, there's Leiter Jr. and Rizzo, and were we missing him? Oh, Gleyber Torres. We want to count him.
Nate is throwing Mark Pryor's name out there.
Mark Pryor.
Oh, Mark Pryor. That beard, it does wonders when he walks out to the mound.
Yeah. Are there any other former Cubs on the Dodgers, like player wise?
Well, Hayward would get a ring.
No, he's gone.
I'm trying to think. I'd have to look for it.
He would get a ring. He would get a ring.
Yeah.
Oh, he would, even though he got.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, because he played this year. Interesting.
No, I mean,
well, we got 24 hours to sit on it, right?
Anyway, sit on it. Let that percolate in your brains while you're waiting for tomorrow's show. Should we get to the mailbag?
Let's do it.
what everyone's here for.
That's what everybody's here
that's why
for.
I'm here. Now, you guys didn't send me any sort of graphics for this. Is that okay?
No, we don't
That's okay.
graphic.
You just like to read them?
We don't
We'll
graphic.
just read them out.
We don't
Yeah.
graphic.
You should talk to the Hawks guys. I usually make like 20 full screens for these mailbag questions.
Well, we're easy people.
Well, now,
Thank you.
Well, now we know.
They like to
Appreciate
be
Now we know.
visually appealing. We already are. Look,
Yeah,
You
look
are.
at
You're
us.
beautiful.
graphics.
You
We're
see
visually
these legs
appealing.
right now, brother?
Gorgeous. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful fall.
Look at the
80 degree
drip
day.
we're wearing. We don't need graphics to
Yeah, that's true.
spice up this show.
Absolutely.
Look at these steel blue eyes. You looking into my soul? Anyways, M. Fitzgerald says, what area of the team would you say should be the front office's main focus this offseason? This is straight from the Discord for the diehards.
Shout out M. Fitzgerald.
M. Fitzgerald, what area of the team would you say should be the front office's main focus this offseason? Juan Soto.
Yeah, right. Should be.
Really,
be.
really.
Yeah.
My
Likely
thing
won't be.
is not. It's not an area like we know that the bullpen is flawed. We know that the rotation could use another arm. We know that the offense could use another big bat. To me, it's not an area of the team that needs to be improved necessarily, or should be their focus the offseason. Their focus this offseason should be finding a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow add a superstar to your team. If you want to call Corbin Burns a superstar, fine. If you want to call Soto obviously a superstar, fine. If you want to trade for Vlad Guerrero and you think he's still a superstar, fine. Get a superstar and put him on this roster. That doesn't mean hope that PCA becomes a superstar this year. For me, it's not a position or a part of the team. It's a specific thing. They're missing a superstar, if not two.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about with the Yankees and the Dodgers, obviously, as well. Like, it's like superstars are the ones leading the way, and it's hard to get those guys. Like, they're either you have to be able to develop them, which is hard to do, or you got to go out and pay them, which is also hard to do. Trade for them, whatever. Like all that's hard to do to acquire, to have a superstar on your roster. But you're seeing right now that the superstars are the ones that are, keep getting these teams to the World Series and potentially World Series champions, right? I say that, and I think when I look at superstar, like you said, Juan Soto's obviously he should be the number one. Like, the Cubs should be in on him. We don't expect them to be in on him, but that would be, if there's anyone that's a free agent or on the trade market this offseason, Juan Soto's the guy. For me, to answer this question, it has to do with the offense. It's just slugging. It's addressing the area of how do you get more pop in this lineup? How do you get more power? How do you get more slug in this lineup? That's something that this team just hasn't had consistently enough over the last 2 years, as they're close, right? They're not there yet. They're not in the playoffs. I think they're closer than maybe a lot of people will give them credit for. But one of the areas that they've been lacking is just slugging, and obviously the conditions at Wrigley Field would hurt any sort of extra slugging that they would have had this year, right? Mm-hmm. You can't predict a season. You can't predict baseball in general. It's hard to, but with weather or whatever, you can't sit there and be we got to build a lineup that can counteract win, because it could be completely different at Wrigley Field next year. So you got to just kind of go on what you have or what you already know about your lineup. And one thing we know about this lineup is that it doesn't have enough slug. And whoever that is out there that they could trade for or sign in the free agent market, a focus does have to be on how can the Cubs get more slug into that lineup, get more home runs, get more pop, get more extra base power, to be able to just drive in more runs, because that's the easiest way to drive in more runs is extra base hits, and the Cubs just need more of that in the lineup.
We're going to get Cody's thoughts on that in a second, but first, one of our great sponsors.
Yes. We're sponsored by Chicago Sports Network, the new home of the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox games. CHSN will broadcast more than 300 live games per year across the Blackhawks, Bulls, and White Sox, and will feature a full lineup of original Chicago-focused sports content. They're also Chicago-based, Chicago-built, and Chicago to the core, and they're bringing it to every corner of Chicago across 77 neighborhoods and beyond. At CHSN, Chicago comes first. Visit chsn.com for more info on how to watch the Bulls, Hawks, and Sox games all season long. Shout out to my guy, Michael Bowling.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he's
I
over
saw
there,
him on
right?
Thursday.
Yeah.
I saw him. I was at the home opener for the Blackhawks, and
Great dude. He does he's one of the hosts for the Bears podcast they have there.
yeah, bowling rolls.
I forgot to put this in the rundown, but I want to tell you about another one of our great sponsors. Okay? This is something you should be doing every day. Blue Moon.
It was either
Every day?
You thought I was going to say Blue Chew, didn't you?
yeah.
Some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes better than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. Blue Moon isn't just another beer. It's a whole different experience. It's a vibe. It's a rizz. You walk around with a little confidence. It gives you a whole new feeling. So why strike out drinking the same old beer when you can get something that's one of a kind? A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all year long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian-style wheat ale. It's one of a kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon made brighter. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Okay. So to answer the question that M. Fitzgerald said, what area of the team would you say should be the front office's main focus this offseason? For me, it's utilizing your prospect capital, because that's just the realistic fact of the matter. Because I have no faith that they're going to go sign Juan Soto like Luke is going to keep pushing just for the sake of content for the next 2 months. And you have 8 top 100 prospects, and as me and Brendan talked about basically for an hour and a half on, Thursday night, we put it out Friday, this front office, as great as, or as much as I believe in their scouting and player development and everything, they've been too slow. Whether they're doing it right or not, we don't know, because we haven't seen enough of it play out. PCA seems like a bright young player we should be excited about. Michael Busch seems like a bright young player we should be excited about, right? However, you've been dangling your prospects to us for about 2 years, and now you got 8 top 100 prospects and a bunch of them in Iowa, and you got a bunch of guys under contract. I don't know how half of them are going to be able to play for the Chicago Cubs anytime soon. So, you want a superstar? You want to bring in a guy? Then use your prospect capital. There's whether it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or a guy that we haven't even talked about, man. You have plenty of prospect capital to go get a superstar via trade. And just the fact of the matter is that you don't have many spots for a lot of these guys, man. So I'm not sitting here saying who you should trade. I'm not sitting here saying that you have to trade them all. I'm saying utilize it, because we're entering 2025 as we sit here right now on October 21st, basically with the same questions entering that season. Now, the offseason hasn't even begun yet, but right now as we sit here, it's like the same questions that we had entering this year. Like Michael Cerami told me and Ryan on Monday, 2024 was a waste. So utilize your prospect capital and bring in the big player, whether it's a pitcher, whether it's a hitter, whatever. You have plenty of it.
So that leads me to the question that was asked by John Cotner on Twitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he asked, what creative mix of prospects do you think will be used for a splash trade in the offseason? So you're saying go ahead, start to use some of those guys. Obviously, you can come up with your hypotheticals all you want,
right?
But who are the most likely prospects to be included in the deal? Well, first of all, it's why Nico's name keeps coming up, because most people think, well, one team is not going to just want 4 rolls of the dice and 4 prospects, right? Teams want some certainty. So they're going to want a young, cost-controlled player that they can stick into their lineup and feel good about that position. That's why Nico fits into that conversation. As far as prospects, well, you would start to think that it might be somewhere where they have some redundancy, right?
Yeah.
Outfield or second base.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Cody, like Barb's not going to be happy with you for trying to trade all the prospects.
Oh, gosh, no.
Well, Barb thinks that I wanted to trade Morel too, and I never said that I wanted to trade Morel. I've actually been a defender of Morel before he got traded. So, respectfully, Barb doesn't know what she's talking about. Respectfully.
No, I agree with what you say, Luke, as far as it's got to come from a place where you're looking at it as an outfielder, right? Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara are probably, if you're trading prospects, like those are guys that you're sitting here right now, and especially the Cody Bellinger decision means a lot for them as well, as far as you don't really have, if he opts back in, like you're really hard pressed to find roles for them on the major league roster going into the year. That could change with injuries and stuff like that throughout the year, but on opening day, you're kind of struggling to see if Cody Bellinger opts in, where does Owen Casey play? Where does Kevin Alcantara play, right? I think similar to them is like a James Triantos of he doesn't necessarily have a spot either with Nico Horner at second base, Dansby Swanson at shortstop, the outfield locked in. Isaac Paredes just traded for and looks like he's going to be the third baseman going into the year. He's just I think you look at the areas on the team where you're like, I don't know where this guy's going to play. And the fact of the matter is just like in baseball, it's they have 8 top 100 prospects, right? Not all 8 of them are going to work out to begin with, right? And not all 8 of them are going to play for the Chicago Cubs. That's just the fact of baseball. Those guys are not all going to play for the Cubs at the major league level. So, as Cody said, you're looking to make a big splash. You're looking to upgrade the roster in some way. It's probably gonna have to come with a couple of these guys being sent somewhere else, and that's okay, because if you're trying to win this season, you're trying to make a big splash, you're trying to upgrade your major league roster. Like that's what prospect capital is for. Yeah. They're not all gonna play for your team. You would like it if they could all play for your team and be really good. That's just not how things work out. So you do have to go in and use them to help upgrade your major league roster in some way. And as Luke said, like the redundancies of position is probably where you're looking. So like a James Triantos, Kevin Alcantara is probably where I look at as far as who would be more likely to be traded than the other guys.
And I know nobody wants to hear the name Owen Casey, but you can't just trade the guys you think aren't good. Other teams have scouts too, and they're going to want something back. Sometimes you have to trade Gleyber Torres, by the way, another former ex-Cub that'll be in the World Series. Sometimes you got to trade a guy that's a top prospect that you realize will be a good major league player to another team because you're trying to win now instead of trying to win later. Yeah. That's just the reality of doing business. You can't just hold on to all the good guys and say, nope, not available, because that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
That's not the way a trade works.
Yeah, and then the ultimate, and I'll let Cody answer in a second, but like the ultimate goal is obviously to win the World Series, right? So if you make a trade and those guys eventually help you win a World Series, like Gleyber Torres is the example I look at, is like he didn't become this perennial all-star, but if he became one of the best second basemen, a perennial all-star for the Yankees, you'd still make that trade anyway because Aroldis Chapman helped you win a World Series.
Yes.
Like, so if these guys end up going on to have really great major league careers, but the guys you got in return for them helped you win a World Series, helped you reach the ultimate goal, what does it matter? Like you're the point of it is to win World Series. The point of playing this game is to win World Series. If these guys can help you by trading them to get there, then it's flags fly forever, right?
Don't be afraid to add Verlander. Not
I've said
actual
this,
Verlander, but I'm just saying.
And I've said this for months. If the Cubs continue to draft well, scout well, and keep inserting more top 100 prospects of guys that, whether it's the next draft. I mean, Cam Smith, first round pick, entered the top 100 almost immediately after he was drafted, right? Like they have done well in the draft in recent years. And if they just keep doing that and you trade so-and-so and so-and-so and they go on to be pretty good, well, who do you got coming up on the pipeline next that perhaps can replace them? That's why fans look back at Chapman and Gleyber Torres and the Dylan Cease trade and all that. They weren't developing guys after that. Like, you got to continue to do it. That's what all the best teams do. That's the Dodgers and the Yankees. That's what they do.
That's why the Dodgers could afford to trade Michael Busch, not only because he was just blocked at the major league level, but they're probably pretty confident they can develop the next Michael
Right.
Bush for
So-
whatever that time.
Or just go
happens.
sign the next one.
Or that too.
So for me, I mean, which is more likely like to be moved? I mean, I think James Triantos is the most likely because I think they are higher on Shaw, and they're both like I think Triantos has defensive liability. He doesn't have as much versatility as Shaw perhaps does. So I think Triantos' days in the Cubs system are numbered. And yeah, he's the most obvious one to me.
Yeah.
But don't if you're in the chat and you see somebody say they should trade Mervis, no, teams don't want Matt Mervis.
You can throw
They
him
want
in.
Matt Mervis if you're just going to throw him in with a bag of rice and, whatever. Like
Bag of rice.
Bag of rice.
That's a
Come on,
Survivor,
brother.
You're talking Survivor.
Survivor, yeah. We make a trade for a bag of rice. We'd watch it.
Never
That's
watched it.
important. Or what if they give you some twine and a tarp? That's a big deal.
Hey, that's huge. Yeah, some fishing line. Yeah.
Fishing line, a tarp keeps you dry at night.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, you have to be willing to part with guys. You're saying Triantos because he's got flaws potentially, right? And the other teams,
I don't even know if
other
they're
teams out there,
flaws.
other teams would say yes, but we prefer to have Shaw,
I think
or
Triantos.
we prefer to have Smith.
I just think.
Yeah,
I
and
just
that's going to drive up the price.
Not that Ed Howard is a guy that could be thrown into a deal too. I think like those are the types of players that if you end up trading 4 guys, right? And let's say Nico or a player A off the roster is 1, and now 2, a pitching prospect and another guy. Sometimes teams will take the player at the end that had a first rounder who's had injuries. A Brandon Davis might get thrown in at the end of a deal. An Ed Howard might get thrown at the end of a deal. And that's not to say that you might not regret that throwing it in at the end of the deal, because that's sometimes what happens.
Mhm.
The guy at the bottom of the deal, the Kyle Hendricks, all of a sudden you're like, well, that was a mistake.
Yeah, I was just saying that based off how this front office works, we know how much they love defensive versatility, and I just don't think Triantos has that. They tried to play him in the outfield. They tried to play him at third base at times in the minors. I think this year he played a lot more second base, and that's probably where he's stuck the most. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think they view him as someone who's versatile defensively, and
Yeah.
like that's to me that's the biggest thing. It's not that I don't believe in him, Like I just think like you have Nico, you have Shaw, and then down the line you have Jefferson Rojas, who is a guy that really is a guy that if there's one guy at the lower levels that's kind of untouchable for me, it's him, because he played with the major league team in spring training this year, and he was like 18 or 19 years old. Like that to me, that tells me something, So I said untouchable, but like he would cost a lot, I think, if you're Jed Hoyer. But Triantos, I feel like just seems very obvious to me that he'll be traded this offseason. So
I thought Shane Newbanks was one of our friends.
he said trade Mervis and Stuckey for Crochet.
And then he says, I'll add Ryan into the deal if Len comes back.
Damn.
That's tough.
Just like that.
Like Cody's the only one remaining at that point.
Wow.
Well, that's
I mean,
Cody
you
and
get
Len.
Crochet though. You get Len, you get Crochet and Cody. I'm actually not. I don't hate that idea.
I'll be calling Corey and Brendan up every day, be like, hey guys, I can't do this alone. They're all yelling at me in the chat. I can't do it.
You're just like monologue yelling into the void for like an hour every day.
Yeah.
Naked man sighting.
Oh.
It's just hanging out on the.
He's smoking a cig.
Smoking a
Smoking a
heater
cig.
right there.
Shirtless.
He's a shirtless dart guy. On
No,
the
he
Blackhawks.
looks-
Flip flops.
It's like
I
mid-July
wish-
for him right
Who would
now.
have thought
Is
you'd have
illegal
the
is
October?
it illegal to shoot the camera out there? He looks absolutely naked today.
I-
Like there are days where naked man looks naked. He's got a lounge chair out right now,
He's living life.
and all you see is bare chest, bare legs, and the cigarette puffing up into the
Oh
air.
yeah. Who would have thought October 21st we'd get
He's
a
got
naked man
sunglasses
sighting,
on.
like
Yeah.
shirtless, just chilling,
That's
lounging on
the view of
balcony.
a man who owns a great 4 a.m. bar in Lincoln Park.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right now,
Seriously.
you can't tell. It's possible that's Matt Peck.
You never know.
That's the most
No,
naked.
Peck would
That's
have
the most
Birkenstocks
naked guy has ever looked.
Yeah, for sure.
He is not, but just
If
to
you,
be
if
clear,
you took
he is
if
not.
you took a photo with your iPhone or whatever phone you have, and you put it out on the internet, somebody would think that man is completely buck naked on his deck right now.
I want him to jump
I
in the
said
chat.
deck.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Let's just start yelling at him from the balcony. Hey.
You can. Go.
Do you have clothes on?
His name's Kevin.
His name's Kevin.
Yeah.
Kevin
Shout
the
out
naked guy.
Kevin the naked guy. Okay.
Owns a bar. Anyways, all right. So that's sort of the trade thing. Let's see. What else do we have from the mailbag?
Godfather just said confession. That's me.
Nice. Come hang out in the office someday, Godfather.
Who knew Godfather this entire time was just across the alley?
Gary Ross, who I have not seen in the live YouTube chat today.
I'm
bear
really
season.
surprised that he's not here today, considering he knew that we were going to do
Yeah,
this.
it's football season.
Naked Kevin.
Damn.
Gary Ross asked today, who are some of the candidates to replace Jed Hoyer after he fumbles the bag again and doesn't get the job done? And then people laughed, and he said, why? It's a serious question. It's a serious question. I can't go there yet. I don't know.
Yeah, and
people say Kimming.
yeah, I think we look at it like right now we don't even know really the front office hiring stuff is so like kind of secretive anyway, and like some names that you just have never heard of start to pop up. But that's either way. We really don't even know who's really gonna be like atop that list if it comes down to it.
All I'll say is that I'm not rooting for it. I gave Jed an F. That was for 2024. I'm absolutely rooting for him to get this thing right, like get this ship on the right track in 2025. Absolutely am. However, if it does come to that after 2025, and I'll be very brutally beaten by this organization, all I will ask is that it's someone from outside the organization and not someone internally.
It should be.
Like that's the bare minimum for me at this point as we ask this question on October 21st, 2024.
You don't want them to pull a Chris Getz.
No.
For instance.
Yeah. Like no one inside the organization. And if they did do someone inside the organization, Dan Kantrovitz would be like just off the top of my head. But again, I'm not a supporter of that. I want new faces, new ideas, fresh blood. Yes.
I will say, where was I going? I've already lost my train of thought. Here we go. I got it.
You were back in Mexico for a second.
Not that it doesn't matter who's running baseball operations, like it obviously does, but it's still gonna come down to who does Tom Ricketts feel is going to run the organization in the way that like fits what Tom wants to do as the ownership, right? Mm-hmm. Like you pick Jed Hoyer because Jed Hoyer runs the organization in a way that Tom Ricketts wants him to. He has autonomy, right, as the president, and that's something we talked about. That Tom does stay out of baseball operations a lot, and that's a credit to him that he does because some owners don't do that. But it's still like he picked a guy who he feels is going to run the organization the way he wants him to run it. So I wouldn't sit here and say, like, if Jed Hoyer's out of a job next year, I wouldn't sit here and say Tom is going to go and sign to be the next president of baseball operations, this gunslinger that's just going to throw money at everyone, going to do all this stuff. Like, I would not expect Tom Ricketts to all of a sudden change how he wants the organization to run, and all of a sudden he's bringing in this president of baseball operations who's just flying by the seat of his pants and is just throwing money at free agents and doing that. Like, I don't think the organization will be run much differently regardless of kind of who's leading president of baseball operations. Like, you may make the change because he feels like someone else can do the job better, if that's what it comes down to, but it's not going to be like this total shift in organizational philosophy. And I think people would expect that or like want that to happen based on getting rid of Jed Hoyer and bringing someone else. But I think because it comes from the ownership, the philosophy of how the organization is run, I don't expect that to just dramatically shift. And I don't want people to like think that that's what's going to happen.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'll add this, just that if Jed Hoyer is not here at this point next season and it's another person, just because you're upset about the payroll and who may or may not be on this team, don't expect, if Jed Hoyer has to be replaced, for it to be the cheap option necessarily, right? Or the discount option. There are teams in this town that were always, the Bears are a classic example of just always trying to find the next guy. He's got no experience, right? Like, it may work, it may not work, but they want to give that first-time experience. They're not going out and getting you Bill Cowher. John Fox was the one example of like a proven coach that came in. Otherwise, the Bears have a history of showing you they want the new, cheaper version to come in and do it next. The Cubs have kind of shown you the opposite. Mm-hmm. They went out big and got Theo. They went out big and got Joe Madden. They went out big and got Craig Counsell. So if they do replace Jed Hoyer, I don't expect it to be an inexpensive option. I expect it that they would actually look at it, unlike sometimes they do with the baseball roster. I think they would look at it and they have the most expensive manager. Yeah. So I would think that the Cubs would be thinking big, however that might be. Whether that's, somebody said, Stearns, who went to the Mets and has the I would think they would start to think that big.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I think my point is just like whoever's running the Cubs, like I don't expect Tom to all of a sudden be saying like we are gonna have $300 million payrolls every year, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just there may be someone who can do the job better than Jed, right? And that's something that Tom Ricketts would have to decide on. But I just don't see the way the organization is run dramatically changing based on whoever's running baseball operations. And you might be right that they might still, I don't know. Again, I don't know who it could be, but like someone that's well known, someone that's whatever. But I don't expect the organizational philosophy and how the things are run to just be all that different with whoever's in charge.
I just don't expect it to be like a Getz-like move from the White Sox.
I don't necessarily think that either.
I think that, if they did go that route, that person better be from like the Dodgers or the Rays to me. Like if that were the route, I don't know a name either. Like David Stearns was the biggest name last year and he got the job for the Mets and he had some tough decisions to make and he sent a bunch of money off to another team and they willing to pay it and all that stuff. He did a great job. Right. So who knows? I think that I'll say this. I just hope we're not in that position next year. Yeah. As much as I've yelled and cried about Jed and how he built the 2024 roster.
That's 2024.
Right. That's 1 year. Overall, he's been a fine front office executive for the Cubs because he was given nothing and he's got the organization in a healthy spot. But he's got to make that big move. It's not even just one move. It's probably like multiple moves because you make one move and then you got to, knowing with this roster right now, you got, whether it's, especially if it's for a position player, he makes one move, it's like, okay, well, how's this guy going to fit in? Then you got to probably make another move, that's what it feels like this offseason could be. And, he's just got to do it. He is on the hot seat, man. It's just the fact of the matter. So I don't know how he's going to right the ship, but I'm rooting for him. I'll say that much.
James Colstock says, bring in Bozo and Cookie for the upgrade. Wow, an old Bozo Buckets reference.
Did you see that?
Is that Bozo the Clown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Shocking.
I know that.
Wow. Billy Corgan had a Bozo's Circus thing yesterday. He's got that tea shop in Highland Park.
Oh.
And he had...
I don't know what it was.
Bozo was there?
I doubt it was Bozo. I mean, I think Bozo has passed on to the clown college in the sky.
Right.
I don't know what was going on. There was some sort of Bozo's Circus event. My wife was like, should we go? And I'm like, no.
Interesting. Wow.
James Eha went to Elk Grove High School.
Yep. It's Suburban League.
Thought I'd throw that one out there.
It's Suburban League.
Since we were talking Smashing
sure,
Pumpkins.
Yeah, I hear you.
We got like less than 5 minutes left. Just a couple minutes. Real quick, one more question from the mailbag. Jedi of Chicago asks, which is more likely, the Cubs acquiring a star via free agency or via trade? So that's what Cody was saying, trade the prospects earlier.
Now, real quick,
which one's more likely?
Is that Jed Hoyer's account?
Jedi of Chicago.
Jedi, yeah.
The Jedi of Chicago is a big Mizzou fan. I know that.
These are not the
players
I
already
you're
answered that
for.
question.
These are not the prospects you're looking for.
These are not the prospects you're looking for.
You will take Matt Mervis.
Carry on.
I would say more likely would probably have to come the trade route. I think it's just like as much as we say like get a star, it's not like every free agent class is just jam packed with superstar players, and I wouldn't even say this one is, right? Like there's a few I think that we could like argue are on that level. Obviously Juan Soto is, right? We don't expect him to get there. So there's just there aren't always a ton available in the free agent market anyway, and you're going to have most of the other teams trying to bid on them. I would say just trading is just probably the more likely avenue to get one for the Cubs this offseason. I mean, I don't even know who that could be, but because of the prospect capital they do have and probably need to offload some of that, using that to help you get a star is probably more of a route or it seems more possible to be able to go that route than I don't expect them to shell out if it comes down to $600 million for Juan Soto. Probably not that much. Probably wouldn't. The Cubs, I would argue, or I would expect not to be in that. Corbin Burns, depending on what he wants, right? I don't necessarily expect the Cubs to bring him in. So it would just seem more likely to me that if they were going to go out and get a star player this offseason, a trade's probably more likely just based on the prospect capital they do have and the ability to use that to get one.
I think Godfather would like us to run a poll next time. Who's your favorite clown? Bozo, Cookie, Ricketts? Who's the one from Simpsons?
Krusty
the clown. Yeah.
Is Sven Gulli a clown? No.
He's not Sven Gulli's not a. Okay. No, Sven Gulli's not a clown. And
we have like one more. We have two more.
We can do one more if you want. We got like 1 minute to do it. What do you want? Will the Cubs stick with Amaya as their catcher since his performance improved? What about free agents? We kind of talked about that a little bit last week,
excitement.
Right? Yeah, designated for excitement sent that one in. I don't really know where they're going to go with it, but I think it's one of the big decisions of the offseason, right? Catcher, what are they going to do? I don't know.
I've said this a handful of times. I think Amaya saved in the rest of his career with the Cubs, at least, from his play from July through the end of the year. But they absolutely can't. He can't be the guy going into next year. They can't rely on that. So
yeah.
I think he'll be here, but they definitely have to add at catcher.
Yeah, I wrote about this on Friday in my newsletter that, like you said, like he quelled some concerns. If the season was over in like early July, you would have a lot of questions at catcher. I think he answered a few questions or quelled some concerns based on his second half performance, especially offensively. The more experience he gets, I think the better he'll be defensively behind the plate. The pitchers really love pitching to him, but I do think he didn't answer all the questions. I don't think you can just go into the season saying like Miguel Amaya is the number one catcher and you're fine with that. I think
But if he's your backup, you might be okay with it.
Even if he's a split timeshare with someone a little more veteran, a little more proven.
Got it.
Like I think you have to address the position in some way. I don't know if you can go into it with Amaya, Christian Bethancourt as your tandem.
You can if you sign Juan Soto. Right?
Fair.
I mean, it just depends on where you decide to make your changes.
That's fair.
So if you make them big moves up somewhere else, then maybe it is okay. Thanks to everybody for the questions in the Discord and on Twitter. We appreciate that for Monday Mailbag. Thanks to everybody in the live YouTube chat. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube page on the way out. Also hit the thumbs up on 18 likes. Come on, man.
Yeah, we need more.
Likes? Come on, guys.
18? Here on a Monday? Mailbag Monday? Magic Wand Monday?
Need more.
Please and thank you.
I had a joke, but I'm going to let it go. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast. We will be back at 11:30 tomorrow. The report cards will also continue tomorrow. We'll see you then. And until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.